Friends, welcome to this conversation on what we call making sense of urbanization in India. The title is kind of evocative of the fact that there's a lot that is chaotic and therefore we need to do something to make sense of it. But it's also the abbreviation of the title of our study, which is the status of environment, society and economy of urban India. This study has been done over the last 8 months by the Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Contemporary Studies. It is supposed to cover 25 cities. So far we've finished 20, and so it's still in the middle, but we thought we'll use this opportunity to at least share the highlights. But at the same time, there were two very important, set of ideas that we've been engaged with, and we thought that it would make sense to have all three being presented. So, one is the work that Mr. Pawan Gupta has been doing. He's a IIT Kharagpur trained architect, regional planner, and has worked in this field for many years. And for the last several years, he has been promoting this idea of what he calls unified settlement planning, USP, and has reminded me it's not only for small towns, but for all of India actually. So it's basically an attempt to put some sense in this whole otherwise, at one level autonomous process, at another, if you want to be derisive and unplanned and chaotic process of what's happening from just rural open spaces to urbanized spaces. We also have with us Mr. Tikender Pawar, who is most well known for the fact that he was the elected deputy mayor of Shimla, and in that capacity he served for 5 years between 2012 and 2017, and he did a number of path-breaking things along with his mayor in Shimla. However, he's not just an elected official, but he is basically a scholar and activist of the field, and so he's one of our more prominent urban thinkers, and that was discovered, and he was asked to be a member of the very eminent set of people who formed the Kerala Urbanisation Commission, and since it was formed before the state was named Keralam, it is still the Kerala Urbanisation Commission, and its report is out, and I requested Tikender to present at least the highlights. The report is quite voluminous, but the highlights, and of course Tikender has also written, he's edited a volume on urbanization before that, which is called City Limits, and some time ago we had a launch of that in Jawahar Bhavan. So in some ways Tikender's presentation will include not just the Kerala Urban Commission ideas, but also some of the ideas in city limits. So taken together, these three sets of ideas I thought would make a good seminar, and so I would, being the host, I would suggest that Mr. Jeet Singh, Dr. Jeet Singh, who's the head of research for RGICS, and who jointly with Mr. Ramesh and me, the three of us led this study on making sense of urbanization in India, that he would present the highlights of our findings. So over to you, Jeet.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you all of you for being here with us today. I'll be introducing our study and its key finding and finally recommendation. But before going into the findings and the recommendations of our study, let me begin with a statement with Tikender ji. He often says that the Indian urbanization is quite different from the Western urbanization, where Indian urbanization is basically derived through rural distress and deprivation, unlike Western urbanization, where urban growth actually pulls people from all over. And since it is driven by rural distress and deprivation, our urbanization is sporadic, unplanned, chaotic, and informal, and that leads to a number of problems. It actually blurs the line between the rural and urban, where we continue to practice all rural problems in the city as well. It also protect and nurture feudal economic interest of those who have wealth, and so many other problems. So it's a kind of very difficult thing, and that's why Indian urbanization is seen as a problem, not as a symbol of the growth. So that's the basic distinction that we are at, and what we are dealing with in India. Broadly, there are a number of problems, number of challenges of Indian urbanization, and broadly we can categorize them in three problems. One is environmental crisis, that is there, then economic problems, and then finally social challenges or problems. These are the three broad categories of challenges that we have to deal with. So we did this study of urban livelihood or urban sense in 23 cities, as VMS said, and these are largely the big cities of India. And in this study, we try to understand how these three different problems of India's urbanization work independently and work together, reinforce each other, and intensify the impact of each of them. So we try to see that collaboration, connection between these three problems, and how they are actually then incrementally creating problems and making life of poor urban dwellers more difficult in urban areas. So this is what the study was about. And I'll come to our finding, what we found in the field. And again, our finding is again categorized in three categories: environmental, economic, and social. Starting with the environmental challenges and finding under it is that since the urbanization is very unplanned, sporadic growth is happening, then this, in the beginning, it's leading to huge pressure on the local natural resources, like the common spaces there, water, land. We don't have even enough land for the proper development or settlement, expansion, and all. So there is huge pressure on these natural resources, basic natural resources, and that itself is a problem, because we cannot sustain a community, a settlement, which is highly stressed on limited natural resources. But since it is all those stresses, it leads to another level of environmental problems, and which includes pollution, like air pollution, contaminated water, then sewage wastage, waste management, landfills keep growing. So these are the second level of environmental problem that we are facing, and it's based on the first level of environmental challenges that started the urbanization. So we have now combination of both level of environmental challenges all across. So for example, to understand this as an example, in last year, of the 50 top polluted city in the world, 47 were from Indian, 47 cities were Indian cities. So that is the level of environmental crisis that we have, and it is continuously growing. It's not coming down. It's growing even more. So this is the problem, and it has a social implication finally, because because when it is stress, when environment is in crisis, environmental outcomes are are not favorable, then the people who are in the margin, who are deprived, they are facing most. They are actually deprived of the access of the good resources and access of better condition to live in the cities. So that's the environmental thing. Now we come to the economic challenges that we are facing in urban India. So urban settlements in India are known as engine of growth because they contribute nearly 60 to 70% of our GDP. So that's how our whole economy is concentrated only in limited city. And that too, if we see little more, then we see that most of this 60 or 70% of the GDP is concentrated in only some metro cities and some industrial cities. So it's far more concentrated. But it's not only the economy that is concentrated, but also the income that is generated from it is also highly concentrated, acutely concentrated in the favor of few people. So, for example, India, the World Inequality Report of last year, it says that top 1% of Indian people holds nearly 40% of Indian wealth, and bottom 50% people holds nearly 6.4% of wealth. So this is how our income is distributed. It's highly, acutely concentrated in hands of the few people, and it then creates huge divide between those who have access to the wealth or who control their wealth and those who are around them. So it's a huge economic gap. So these are the broad figure, but when it comes to the real life, how it reflects in terms of the high unemployment rate. It's very high unemployment rate in urban areas compared to the rural areas. Then it comes in the form of the low workforce participation rate of women. Compared to the rural India, workforce participation of women in urban area is far less. So, and since they are less in number in the job market, then it gives a space for those gender taboos, gender biases, gender discrimination at home, in society and all that. Then it reinfuses. So well, environmental problems has a social significance, and it is directly linked to the well-being of the people. Economic, certainly it has impact on the way we live in city and who benefits from this whole economy and the way our cities are formed. So that's the economic thing. Then comes to the social challenges. Since our, as I said, that it's sporadic, it's derived by the distress, rural distress and deprivation. People come in city in numbers, in group, and they live in some settlement, and then other people of their area, their caste, their religion, they come and settle around them. And then we have now ghettos in cities. In most of the cities we have ghettos, and these ghettos then reinforces all those problems that we have in rural areas related to the gender, related to the caste, religion, and all those kind of the problems we continue to have in the urban area. So we are actually not transforming our life by, from coming from rural areas to the urban areas, and then, then claiming that we are, moving to a better society. But that's not happening because we are continuing to living in those ghettos, and we are reinforcing all those discriminations, all those divides, social stratifications. That all is happening even in the rural areas, and that's another level of the problem. And that's the one thing. But the other thing is that all those natural scarcity, the resource scarcity in the urban areas, because only few people, there is huge shortage of the water, huge shortage of land, huge shortage of common properties, and only those who have who have wealth, who are affluent, who have influence on the policies, they have access to those resources. And this is actually depriving all those city dwellers who are on the margin, who are deprived, who are already, who are poor and city living in outskirts. So this, in a way, then this environmental crisis is also leading to the deprivation of people all across. Then, to address all these problems, we came up with the idea of this city governance, the municipal bodies, and the 74th Amendment of the Constitution actually endowed these municipal bodies with the power and responsibility to address these social problems, the ecological problem, economic problem in the city. But what happened is that most of these cities or city governance institutions are not, are not empowered enough to govern as a self-governor. They are not autonomous. They don't have resources. They don't have enough capacity to deliver functions, and they are kept like that so that the control, the resource control, is in the hand of the states, who then controls the entire city. So they are kept very fragile. These institutions are kept very fragile, and that's why they are ineffective in addressing all these three challenges. So that's what we have seen in our study of 23 cities, and based on these findings, we came up with some recommendations. These recommendations are tentative. We can always discuss them and then we'll refine them. But our tentative recommendation so far is that, and this meeting is one such platform where we've discussed these recommendations and then refine them. So our recommendation in terms of the improving the environmental challenge or spatial issues in city is that we think about the ecosystem of habitations. Our top cities, let's say top 100 cities, they have been, we ignored their expansion, we ignored their habitation, we ignored their planning, and that's why we are facing several challenges in these cities. But while we have to correct that course, we also need to, address the other upcoming cities, the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, who will become larger city in next few decades. We must address their problems now, so that by the time they grow as a big city, we have a better settlements, we have better distribution of resources, and people have better life in those cities. Then we must also move away from monocentric or linear layouts of urban design to more polynodal cities, which Pawanji will also discuss in his thing, and Tekenderji will probably deliver on it. And then we should also, our planning must also be, depend or advised or have some principle of the green principles, like commons, effective management of the commons, green buildings, noise control, solar rooftops, and such ecologically positive planning should be incorporated in our city plannings. And also related to the traffic, that this is going to be a huge problem. It's already a problem in big cities like Delhi and Bangalore, but we have to come up with the better solutions, and cycling is one of them. Public transportation improvement is another. So such things need to be done. In terms of the economic and financial challenges, as we know that the cities are anyway, they are known as the growth engine, but they are also a good. They are so because they give a good environment for new startups, new entrepreneurs, and we should keep on promoting them through resources, skills, and overall ecosystem. Then there is a need to have rationalization of the property tax, because we must have to increase this property tax, because anyway we have limited resources in city, and those who have bigger spaces to for their dwelling or for their work, they must be paying higher compared to those who are on the margin. Then all the services that are being provided by city governance, like electricity, water, and all these should be priced. They should not be given for free of cost. They should be priced, and but we know that there are people who are at the margin. They cannot afford buying up water and electricity. So these rates can be rationalized for them, so that we have an effective cross-subsidization model where rich pay higher costs compared to the poor who pay less. But it should be, no, these facilities should be priced. Then since there are many enterprises in cities, they should be creating skills and giving training to the people the new generation, so that apprenticeship should be a mandatory part of these enterprises. And in terms of social and institutional challenges, as I said earlier also, that the mixed housing is, it's a mandatory. We should live together. The city should be designed in such a way that all classes of people be living in close proximity, and that help each other. Not only help each other, but that also create a sense of community, and it has a better social outcome. Then there is need to reflect on the 74th Amendment, where we must also understand and reflect on the way city governments are now currently are in place, and what more needs to be done, so that they function as an autonomous self-government at the city level. Then there is a good example from Kerala model, and Kerala has done tremendous work, and Jikendraji will talk more about that because he has been part of that process. But it actually, the Kerala model of urbanization has actually adopted the 74th Amendment in its letter and spirit. So there is clear division of roles. There is far more power to the city mayors, who are then actually responsible and accountable to the people. So these things, there is a lot to learn from them, because there is clear devolution of the functionary and functions. So there is a lot to learn from that. We will learn that from Jikendraji. And then also finally, as we know that people have very limited interest in the governance of cities, and that is reflected in various city level elections. Very few people come out and vote because they know that this city government are not effective in addressing their issues. So compared to the state level election, the voting percentage goes down drastically when we have the municipal elections, and this is because that they don't see that municipals have effective role in addressing their issues. So while we have to build that trust through policy mechanism, but we also need to create space for civil society by nurturing cadres who can stimulate processes, civil society processes in different areas in different cities, so that people feel urbanization as their own process, and they contribute effectively in the process of city making. So this is the study. These were our findings and the recommendations.
Thank you so much, Jeet. Since I was also involved with this study, I want to say that while it is true that the fact that Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Contemporary Studies decided to go into urban studies essentially because of the nudging, on the one hand from Tikender and on the other hand from Pawanji, polite nudging. I mean, they were not saying aap kariye, but we just felt that our emphasis for the last 3 years had been agriculture, natural resources, and rural and tribal India. And we should pay attention to the fact that a lot of poverty as well as population has gravitated to urban India, and so are the issues. So we are thankful in a sense to both of them for drawing our attention to this. But having done that, what I've found remarkable is that starting from a position of either not knowing what the KUC recommendations were, so be agnostic till day before yesterday, because I didn't see I talked to Tikender about it, but I didn't know in writing. And with Pavanji, in fact, I had initially differences of perspective, but interestingly, while doing our study, and now that our draft report is here, and he just presented it, there's a very significant convergence of both findings as well as approach and recommendations. So, and so that fills me with a sense of confidence that we are perhaps arriving at a consensus which will be contributory to a new paradigm, because I can assure you that we didn't want to just repeat what the Kerala Urbanization Commission has said or what Pavanji is trying to do. We just, maybe later, der aaye durust aaye, but we arrived at that independently. That's the only thing I want to mention.